Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte clear liners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you could pay with your HSA, FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
New activation and upfront payment for 3-month plan required. Taxes and fees extra. Additional restrictions apply. See mintmobile.com for full terms.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is Ryûhei Kitamura, director of films such as Midnight Meat Train, Godzilla Final Wars, Versus, and his newest film, The Price We Pay, which is available now on VOD. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for inviting me here.
Thanks for joining us. We're really excited to talk with you both. Mary Beth and I was introduced to your work with the Midnight Meat Train, which when it came out, was playing at, I had to track it down in my city where it was playing, but I made my friends go see it opening night. We sat down and watched it in this really small theater, and it was one of my favorite movie experiences I still think fondly back to today. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's a fun movie, and Bradley Cooper, boy, what a star! What a cutie!
He's amazing. Yes, he's of course amazing actor, producer, director, but he is a wonderful person. So I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, but so tell us a little bit about your new film, The Price You Pay, and what it's all about.
This is my passion fun project, which I came up with the idea with my writing partner, Chris Jolly, in the middle of the pandemic. Lockdown, we had nothing to do. And of course, all of my movie projects were postponed or disappeared. So, instead of, depressing or frustrated or stressed out or worry about if this is the end of the world, we just wanted to, come up with new ideas so that when the world opens up again, I just, wanted to have fun. So this originally was started almost like, kind of like Friends indie movie, which is my, back to my basic.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to do something like 80s, 90s vibe, crazy, bloody gore splatter, horror movie. So we started trading ideas, and in a few months we had the script, and which we really happy with. And luckily, the script went into the hands of Emil Harsh, and he, loved the script. He was a fan of me, and he said he's on board.
Oh, wow.
And even better was he made a phone call to his buddy, Stephen Dove, and Stephen called me, and we chat for like 10 minutes, and he said, hey, I love everything you said. I'm in. So suddenly I got Emil Hush and Stephen Dove. So it happened so fast, but I had only, 4 weeks window because I had the obligation to do this bigger movie in Japan, So within 4.5 weeks, I had to go to Japan. So it was like, are we doing this? But, movie making, it's always now or never. If you miss that window, you never know when 3 of us are available. Do we have the money again or not? So, I thought for like 5 seconds and said, it's now or never. I'm going to do it. So 4 weeks mean 1 week to prep, which is 5 days, and 3 weeks to shoot, 15 days. So this was crazy, intense experience, but we had so much fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. And so I heard that the ending of this movie is a little bit different than what you originally wrote. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is that true? And could you maybe tell us a little bit about how the original ending was for the film?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I had only 5 days. I just drove to New Mexico, and we started, joined with my local producer over there, and started looking for the location. Right, so within 5 days, there's not much you can find. I had to deal with what I can find. Luckily, we have amazing locations in New Mexico, Las Cruces, but this particular scene for the climax final fight, the big explosive death scene happens at the end of the movie. It was very different, but we couldn't find the location, and we didn't have time or money to make that set. So I had to come up with something, new, completely different, because I basically, after like 3 days looking around, I basically knew what I can find in Las Cruces area, right?
Right.
So I called my writer, Christopher Jolly, in London and said, like, hey, we have to come up with a new ending. This is what I have. I have this wasteland, desert. I have this farmhouse. That's it. That's it. We have to do something in this, basically the outside, because we don't have original ending was climax was, everything was happened in underground.
Okay.
Yeah, but so I said, no, we want to go out, and everything happens outside the final, 5 minutes of the movie, and we have to come up with completely new, So just because we didn't have enough time or money to do what was written in the script doesn't mean that, we just compromise. That means we have to come up with even better idea, because I take my job very seriously. It is a job, but it's not really a job. This is the only thing I wanted to do in my life, since I was like 17. So, I can't give up that easy. So, and I really like to work with cast and crew and writer who willing to, take challenge, because I ask a lot, because there got to be a reason that, all of us gather at that particular moment of your life and, working on this movie. So, let's do something, we haven't done before, and let's just try our best, So Christopher Jolly, he took a challenge, and he came up with this new climax, big death scene at the end, which is in the movie.
Yeah.
But he sent me that script probably 2 days before we started shooting. So
casual.
we were trying to figure, and it's when you watch the movie, you get it. It's very complicated, big scene, right? So we were like, how we even gonna do this, But like I said, I'm not gonna give up. So me and my crew are like trying to figure out, while we were shooting in this crazy schedule in this heat of New Mexico, right? Part of my crew was just doing this all kinds of tasks with the dummy and the stunt double. How we're gonna do this? And every time they show me the clip, I say like, I don't like this. This is not enough. Do it again. So we were just trying to figure out how to do it while we were shooting, which was already the nightmarish chaos happening.
Wow.
But I think in the end it paid off. Even this chaotic, passion, energy. So we were like yelling every day because nothing was really working right. Of course, if you have only 5 days to prep, nothing really going to work, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Even though you have 3 months of prep, once you start filming every day on the set, something going to happen. That's the nature of the filmmaking. So if you only had 5 days to prep, every day was like a crisis. But even that, the stress, pressure, anger, everything, I think we all, transformed into this crazy, chaotic, final 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of this climax movie.
Hell yeah. So I'm curious because you've done a lot of work in Japan making films, and you also have kind of come over to Hollywood. And so I wanted to hear more about like the biggest differences you see between making films in Japan versus making films in the US, and like how different those experiences are, if they're different.
It's not, I didn't feel I moved here exactly 16 years ago today.
Oh,
January.
Whoa.
This is the day I moved to LA 16 years ago already.
Wow. That's cool.
Then I jumped into pre-production of the Midnight Meat Train. So to be honest, adjusting to Hollywood was easier than moving to a different country. I had to take care about like my social security number. And like, the biggest problem I had was like, I had no credit history because I was new.
Right.
So when I go out to buy the car, they wouldn't sell me. You don't have the credit history. I mean, of course, I'm new here. What do you want me to do?
Expect?
So that's a funny story that, so I walk into the office of Lakeshore Entertainment where I was working on the script, I walk into the office of Tom Rosenberg. He was the big boss of, and the big producer, Oscar-winning producer. So I went to Tom's office and I said, "Hey, Tom, you gotta help me out. I can't even buy a car. I mean, I can't worry about how do I buy my car while I'm working on for you to do this, movie, right?" Then he made couple of phone call, and I went to this car dealer, Galpin, right? And then this nice gentleman, old gentleman, Stuart, I was introduced to. And this Stuart was the guy who used to selling the cars to all the Hollywood celebrity like Marlon Brando.
Oh, wow.
So I said, "Hey, you got to help me out. How do I get my, this credit history thing? How do I get?" Then he said, "You just buy expensive car, cash." So I go, "Okay." And that's what I did, And so at that time I bought 2 cars, and one car, which was, my personal car, I wanted to, of course, this was my first time in America. I wanted to, buy American car. And I decided to buy, of course, Ford Mustang, right? So I bought the Ford Mustang. Then we were driving, me and Stuart were driving to do all the paperwork. We passed this garage, says gas, Galpin Old Service or something. And I knew that place because there was this famous MTV program called Pimp My Ride. Do you know?
Oh,
remember?
yeah. Oh, yes.
So I was like, "Hey, Stuart, is that the place from Pimp My Ride? Can they pimp my ride?" So I said, "Yes." So I drove into the garage and I said,
shit.
"Hey," and I bought the black Ford Mustang. So I said, "Hey, I need a red stripe on the middle." Then, so I was changing everything. Right? Then Stuart
so
was like,
cool.
change the wheel to this one, change this, whatever the panel to this one, and add this, the parts, and, we were customizing it, right? Then he started to telling me about the wheel, changing the wheel. this Mustang already had a super cool wheel, but he was bringing out some customized wheel. So I started to get worried. So I said, "Hey, Stuart, I mean, how much is this Ford Mustang now? Isn't it the price of like a Porsche or Ferrari right now? What? Then this Stuart, I still remember this Stuart looked right into my eyes and he said, "Hey, if you wear a nice shirt, you wear nice shoes." I'm like, all right, you won. Okay, change the wheel. So this Ford Mustang customized, by gas was super expensive, but I love that car.
Do you still have it?
No, I sold it. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, do you still have it in the garage?
No, I changed it to a newer version of Ford Mustang.
Okay.
So I had it for like 4 or 5 years, but then I sold it. But that was like fun experience. So I just think living in United States was much harder than adjusting to Hollywood system. Actually, adjusting to Hollywood system wasn't that much difference to me because movie making is, to me, it's all about communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to the producer, talk to the writer, talk to the cast and crew, and just because everything starts with like my vision here, right? So I just try to explain what I'm thinking and my philosophy of movie making, which is I just don't want to do copy somebody's work or copy my own work. I always try to. It's very hard because we got influence from all over.
Yeah.
I grew up watching 70s movie, 80s movie, 90s movies, and everything you need, it's there, right?
Right.
And it's so hard something totally new by now, because our great former directors already done everything. So, but at least I always try to come up with some little bit of a different angle, new take. So I take my job, that's why very seriously. But to do that, I need to explain my passion, my vision to my casting crew and the producer and the writer. So, but that's basically the same thing, no matter where I make movie. So, no, that wasn't that hard. The biggest, challenging thing, biggest difference is in Japan, there is no union. That's the big difference.
Oh, okay.
They don't even have the contract, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Here, everything goes through the contract. Your agent, and lawyers, and tons of insane amount of paperwork. Japan, nope. I still haven't signed the movie came out in Japan last year. No.
Sorry, it's incredible.
Can you believe it? No, I still haven't signed it. Anything. So it's just crazy. But that's just it's kind of good and bad. But it's just a huge difference. So no paperwork, no union means no rule in Japan. So my record of nonstop shooting is 46 hours. No sleep, no break, no lunch. We were like eating sandwich or rice bowl as the lighting is being set up.
Oh shit!
It was crazy.
Oh my god!
This rock star.
What movie was that?
This is 1 hour. It's kind of like a music video, but almost like a movie called Longinus.
Okay.
I had this rock star friend, and he called me up one day and said, I want you to do the video for me. So of course he's a rock star, so I thought it was a music video, right? Then he said, no, I love your short movie, The Messenger, and I want to do that kind of stuff for 60 minutes. Like 60 minutes is almost a movie.
Yeah.
And worst timing because I was deep in the pre-production of Godzilla Final Wars, right? So like I'm doing the biggest movie this year, and you asked me to do that. So only days off, of course, weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So okay, all right. So Friday we go there, and Saturday, Sunday we don't sleep, we shoot, and Monday morning I have this big production meeting for Godzilla. So, of course, 46 hours nonstop, and I actually made this 60 minutes movie, which is I'm very proud of.
Oh my
but
God.
if I do that here, I'll be in jail. 46 hours, my crew and cast keep on working. Of course, I'll be in jail. I wouldn't do that.
Oh my goodness.
So, of course, in Hollywood, I mean, you can maybe shoot like 10 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
11 hours. If you go overtime like 30 minutes for like 3 days in the first week, you get fired, right?
Right. Right.
But in Japan, there is no such thing as overtime, which is crazy. But sometimes it helps because
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. I can see that.
Can you take us back to kind of the beginning? How did you get introduced to horror? Did you watch horror movies as a kid growing up?
Yes, I grew up watching all kinds of movie.
Okay.
My favorite movie, if you ask me, is this movie called Breaking Away. It's a bicycle race movie, and this Diane Lane movie, Little Romance. Those two are like my and the Kevin Costner movie Fandango. Those are like my lifetime all-time best. So I grew up watching all kinds of movie, but yes, but I think it was when I was like 10-year old, I watched this movie Phantasm, and after that I went deep into the world of 80s horror movie. Then I went back to 70s movie. I started watching like Exorcist, and Changeling, all that. So because to me movie is like whatever, even though it's a scary movie, bloody movie, it has to be something to give energy, in your life, right? Once you get into the movie theater with a popcorn and Coke, whatever, for next 90 minutes, 2 hours, you can forget about whatever the complicated, difficult thing of your life, right? So it was somehow natural to me that even it's a Rocky or Terminator or Phantasm or Nightmare on Elm Street, to me, it's like this is like a 2-hour getaway from this, whatever happening outside.
Right.
So then think about that. Then horror movie. Why I appreciate horror movie is because I don't really want to experience that kind of stuff in the real life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In real life, even you just cut the tip of your finger, it hurts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But in the movie, head blown off, head chopped off, and it's just all fun, right? So I think that was very fascinating to me when I was like 10-year-old, 11-year-old. I don't want any of this happen to me in real life, but at least in the movie theater, yes, head blown up, yes. So, yeah.
Did your parents like horror movies, or were they strict about what you could watch? Did you have to sneak watching horror movies or anything?
No. I lost my mom when I was like 8, so I was kind of like a lonely kid,
Oh, okay.
And my dad was very the guy who think outside the box. He wasn't really like typical Japanese, He didn't tell me you have to do this or that, He thought that, as long as he cares about me and take care of me, he let me do whatever I wanted to do. So, he wasn't really worried that I started go deep into the, horror movie. But there are only 2 movie, and he's not a horror movie fan at all. He's more like a Humphrey Bogart kind of guy.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
McQueen guy. So I really appreciate that, Dad, thank you for just came with me to all these crazy bloody movies, right? But there were 2 movies he just got so angry in the middle of the movie, and he's like, what is this? What is this? I can't stand this. I'm just gonna go outside. I can't watch this. 2 movie were, 1, Maniac.
Oh. Yeah.
And 2, Eraserhead. So I understand. If you don't like horror movies, if you are Humphrey Bogart, Steve McQueen guy, of course you can't take that. But other than that, he always were, there with me. Like Scanners, Friday the 13th, My Bloody Valentine. He could take all of that, but he couldn't take Maniac.
Maniac or Eraserhead.
Honestly, it makes sense though. Those are a lot. Like Eraserhead's a lot for me, and I love David Lynch. So.
Wow.
So I had a freedom, and my dad always supported me. And when I was 17, I just made my choice, and I decided to be a film director, and I just quit high school. And even that day, my dad didn't say anything.
Oh, wow.
Because he knew that, I grew up. I didn't even go to school that much. I was always sneaking out. I was always sitting in the movie theater. And when I come home, I was just watching this, Betamax or the VHS anyway. So he knew I was that was my passion. So he supported me all the way, which was very lucky for me.
That's so
That's
cool.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so you mentioned Phantasm. So that is the film that we are talking about today. Before we talk about that film, we're going to take a quick break for ads, and we'll be right back.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back from our break. Okay, so Ryuhei, we're talking about Phantasm. Let me read a super brief synopsis for everybody before we jump into this film. In Phantasm, and this description is from IMDb and it's very silly. In Phantasm, a teenage boy and his friends face off against a mysterious grave robber known only as the Tall Man, who employs a lethal arsenal of unearthly weapons.
It's a very basic plot synopsis from IMDb. I don't know if it necessarily covers the movie, but we'll go with that. But okay, so you mentioned that was this your first horror movie that you remember being introduced to?
Probably yes, especially seen in the movie theater. Yes.
Okay. And how old were you? Tell us.
I was 10. I was 10 years old.
You're 10. So why is this your Scarred for Life pick? What about it is the reason that we're here today?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I started watching a lot of movie when I was like a 8-year-old, 9-year-old. Mm-hmm. The one reason was I lost my mom and I was a lonely kid. And my dad was, became very busy, after he lost his wife. So he had to send me to his sister who was living in Australia, Sydney, Australia.
Oh, wow.
So I lived there, and I thought I was just, visiting my aunt with my dad. Then one day my dad went back to Japan and my aunt took me to the school. So I was like, what? Wow. I'm staying? And yes, you have to. And I couldn't speak English at all, even like yes or no. I didn't. I was only 8, right? So first, like few weeks, 1 month, couple months were tough. But of course, you're a kid, you adjust and you start to learn English very quickly and, you make some friends. So, after that, everything was fine. But still, I knew that I had to speak English. I had to learn English. So the best way to speak English was, of course, you talk to the people and, of course, going to the movie theater. Mm-hmm. So I started going that was like, I think, a summer vacation. I had like 2 months off. So I went to the movie theater every day. And that's when my very, favorite movie was this movie, Breaking Away, this bicycle movie. So those days, back in the 80s, right, you go into the movie theater, you can stay for the entire, day, right? Yeah. So I just will go to the first show and stay till the last show, watch the same movie 4 times, 5 times. And next day I did the same. And with Breaking Away, I learned to, film English. So, and that's why, I started watching other movies like Endless Love and all kinds of movies. Of course, Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, all those movies coming out, right? Then I went back to Japan. So that's when I was really started to watching like just all kinds of movie. Doesn't really matter what genre, right? Then I saw the poster of this cool Japanese poster of Phantasm. Have you ever seen the Japanese poster of Phantasm?
No, I haven't.
Very different from American. It's the best. If you Google is going to come out.
I'm trying to pull it up right now.
It's so cool.
Oh, wait, is it okay? Is it? Is it this one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, that's so cool.
There's another one too, but it's very, very different, right? It's so cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't even, I had no idea what kind of movie is this. Maybe I thought this is like a sci-fi movie.
Right.
So I went to watch the movie on the day it came out in Japan, and I just freaked me out. Freaked me out, but also fascinated me, because all this, the visuals and the music and everything in the movie, still, there's no other movie like Phantasm, right?
No, there really isn't.
40 years past, that one is somehow, it was just one and only Phantasm. So I was like just fascinated by this vision. And that's when I think that was the first time I started to think about, who made this movie? Oh, there is a job called the movie director. Then I read that Don Coscarelli made that movie when he was like 25, right? So like, what?
Did he really? I didn't realize he was that young when he made Phantasm.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like, wow, how can you do that? And I was fascinated by all those, cool special effects and everything. So that's why that opened another door. So I started watching, and that was the right timing, 1979, 1980. That's when Friday the 13th, Halloween, My Bloody Valentine, the Pro, Scanners, all this, crazy special makeup movies that coming out. So I was just fascinated by all of that, So I the tall man, the silver sphere, that finger fly bug, everything in that movie scared me. But what scared me most, was that, the Phantasm 1 had that feeling of, the boy's loneliness, this isolation, the fear of losing somebody, right? And I was at the sensitive age. I just lost my mom, right? So I just so connected to the Mike's character that, it's just he and his brother. In my world, it was just me and my dad. And, it's just like, every time my dad goes to work, it worries me. And that connected so strong with the Mike's character, So that movie, special, the makeup and effects and the story, tall man, music, everything is cool about that movie. But that overall atmosphere about this loneliness was something that grabbed me strong.
I completely understand that, because so the thing is, this is the first time for prep for this podcast. It's the first time I've seen this movie. I own, like I was showing Mary Beth before we recorded, I own like the 4-disc collection. I've never seen it, but I own it because I'm a horror movie fan. So like I have to own all the box sets. So I was really excited to finally watch this movie, because as a kid, for me, you talk about the Japanese poster for the first one. Well, for me as a kid, when I was growing up in the 80s, it was the Phantasm 2 poster that like I would see, and particularly with the VHS box at like the rental stores, I would see it and it would scare the crap out of me. It was the tall man holding out his hand with like this silver ball with a corkscrew and things coming out of it. And it's just like, what is this movie? And I just remember I had an actual nightmare about this poster as a kid without having ever seen this movie. I just imagine this ball flying at me and the tall man, because he's really creepy in this poster. But I had never seen the movie until, last night when I sat down to watch it. And I was blown away by the way that this movie tackles grief, loneliness, and the fear of losing your family, because that is, you don't realize it when you're first starting to watch the movie. But as we get to like the end and some of the reveals, and you start to realize just how sad and lonely and how traumatized Mike is, and how he doesn't want, like, he's following Jody around, his brother, around the entire movie, and it's because he doesn't want to lose the one person that's in his life. And it's so heavy for a movie about dwarves and planets, other planets, and a guy that is crushing people down to dwarf size. Like, there's a lot of silliness up front, but there's a lot of tenderness and smart stuff going on in this film. It surprised me.
Completely agree. Yeah. And back in 1979, of course, that was ages before internet, right?
Right.
So if you're living on the countryside of Japan, especially, there is no information about movie like now, right? Completely different time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was so funny that Japanese distributor, right? That in Japan they sell this movie program, which is the beautiful culture of Japan. They still do.
Oh, really?
You can buy this book basically at every movie.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah,
wow.
That's cool. I really hope that why the rest of the world don't do it, but that's like a Japanese tradition.
That's so cool.
I bought this program of Phantasm. I still have it, right? So I started like reading this production notes and everything. It's so funny that they said in this book like that's Silver Sphere, that's for real. And while they were shooting this movie, the crew died. And the blueprint is disappeared with no reason. So now nobody knows how to operate the Silver Sphere. So it's so funny. But back in 1979, people believed that. Oh my God, that's real. Wow.
That is phenomenal.
That's so phenomenal, right? So when they released The Burning, none of my favorite movie, right? That guy, the Cropsey, right?
Yes.
The killer, right? They first teaser poster they made, I'm sure you can find it online, was like, make the shot of the Cropsey as if like FBI wanted poster. And they said and they just, promote as if this is like a real person. And
no way.
They even renamed him Bamboro. It's not Cropsey, Bamboro. So, he's been wanted by 38 states of the United States, and he's still nowhere to be found. So back in 70s and 80s, Japanese distributor were going totally crazy. It was so funny. And
that's
the kid, 10-year-old to 11, we all believe that. Oh my God.
Right.
Oh yeah.
He's the real guy.
Oh my God. That's incredible. Well, so are you a fan of like Italian horror films, giallo? Is that anything that you have interest in or watched as a kid at all? Because this movie reminds us, me and Terry, so much of Italian horror movies. So I'm curious if you had like any kind of relationship with them as a kid.
Of course, I love all Lucio Fulci movie, all the sound. I'm the guy who buys all the remasters again and again and again. I just pre-ordered the Gates of Hell. 4K.
I did too.
Hell yeah.
I did too.
And the soundtrack of Zombie, how many times do I have to buy this? And every time battle comes out, okay, all right. 20th anniversary, 25, 30, 35. And you know what? In Japan, they just announced that 45th anniversary of Dawn of the Dead contains like 3 different versions. George Romero cut, Dario Argento cut, and this 1994 cut. Yeah. So.
I have this 4K Blu-ray that has I think it has 3 cuts on it, and one of them is the Dario Argento cut. So it's So
yes.
Why do I need it? I don't need it, but I'm gonna get it anyway, right?
Yes, I grew up watching Lucio Fulci movies, Dario Argento movies. Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
That's what jumped out at me with this movie in particular is first of all, the music reminds me of Goblin a lot. There's a lot of Italian prog rock influences to it. And the way the movie has this dreamlike logic to it, it reminds me a lot of the kind of Italian horror that we were seeing around that time. So I was kind of wondering, I'm curious if that was something that inspired him, because there's a lot of influence here. This feels like an American movie that is pulling from Italian horror of that decade.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, well, because I have seen Phantasm before. I really liked it. I loved it even more this time because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Just to put it, it is very much vibe heavy. It's more about the atmosphere of this movie, which I think is incredibly crafted. I think they established that, you talked about, the loneliness and the isolation and grief of this character, but then everything else is kind of just you kind of get it and you kind of don't, but it makes sense because you're in the kid's perspective, but everything about it is just disorienting. You don't really know who this guy is, the tall man. You don't really understand why there's an alien planet in his house. You don't understand a lot of things happening, and I feel like that's a lot of Italian movies where it is very vibe focused, atmosphere focused, not as focused on like the character development, but it's still so beautiful and so fascinating. You can't help but love it and want to keep watching it. Like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't totally make sense. It's just so well crafted.
I totally agree. And you just hit the spot. I love Phantasm because it doesn't make sense.
No.
But,
So good.
Even in real life, or now I'm working on multiple script, right? It's all about to try to make sense, right? With all those notes from everybody, it's all about make sense, and even in life. But life doesn't make much sense.
No,
it doesn't make sense with this crazy virus going on. It doesn't make much sense, right? So
right.
But I really think that's what makes me scared.
Yeah. So one of the things that, watching this now in 2022, and for the first time where like I have like a lot of horror knowledge from the decade that would come after this film, it was weird to me because I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I'm seeing shades of what would eventually be in Hellraiser a little bit, like the idea of like this other world and the kind of cosmic sense of it. But I also was getting some like, Nightmare on Elm Street vibes, particularly with the way that the movie could potentially be one long dream that we're not really sure of what's happening in there. And the final jump out moment where we're supposedly in reality and the tall man jumps through the glass, or like the dwarves jump through the glass and pull him out. I was like, this shot reminds me of the ending that would be filmed like 5 years later for Nightmare on Elm Street. So there's a lot of like that kind of legacy stuff that I think this movie was establishing that people were maybe paying homage to in the 80s with like Hellraiser and like Nightmare on Elm Street and that kind of stuff. Like it felt like a movie that maybe influenced a lot of people.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. I also think that this is one of the funniest movies to get a franchise. I have not seen any of the other Phantasms, so I don't know what they're like, but this film is just, I feel like, stands so well on its own with what it is. And it's like, we're so used to slasher franchises where it's pretty straightforward about what's going on. But with this, it's just so interesting that such a weird, ethereal feeling, bizarre film got 4 other sequels. It's just like, it's incredible to me that is what got a franchise. I don't hate it. It's just very funny because this movie does not feel like a franchisable thing. At all.
Yes.
To me.
I agree. Of course, I watched, all of the franchise, but the first one has it's in the different planet, I think, the original Phantasm.
Are the sequels good?
Yeah, sequels are pretty good, but but it's very different.
Right.
Yeah, it's more like action horror entertainment. Don't have that feeling that I love about the first, Phantasm. But of course, still, you have Tall Man, you have Mike, and you have like Shotgun and Silver Sphere. So
what more do you need, right?
You not to love it.
That's true.
Speaking of like indie filmmaking, though, because you were talking about, sometimes working really long on sets over in Japan. When I was looking at this movie and like the filming behind it, I saw that filming was mostly done on the weekends and lasted for about 20 hours a day sometimes. And he did it for almost a year to get this movie made. So like this was like a passion project. And when I was looking at some research, Reggie Bannister, who plays Reggie in the film, was talking about the production playing kind of flying by the seat of their pants, where the script was changing often. And I think instead of being like a detriment to the film, it kind of adds to like the sort of dreamlike feel of it, where you don't really know where it's going to go, probably because as they were filming it, they were constantly changing the script. And so I think there's a lot of like invention here that I think adds to the kind of mythology of this film. I was thinking particularly with like the way the film is shot, it's very dark. There's a lot of really blacks in it that like kind of almost like hug the scenery. There's like a shot in the beginning of the mausoleum and it's dark out, and it's just the entire picture is black except for this mausoleum that's sort of floating there, and it feels very ethereal. It feels very dreamlike. And I know that that's probably because they were filming by the seat of their pants and couldn't really, light scenes and stuff, but it really adds, I feel, to the ambiance of this film in a way that it feels like a happy accident in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I mean, you need that to make a movie special.
Yeah.
I also, something I thought about a lot watching this movie was how much it feels like an extended chase sequence for an hour and a half. And because there are so many moments of Jody leaving and leaving Mike behind. I mean, you would have thought after the first time, he would have been like, maybe I shouldn't leave my brother by himself, but whatever. And poor Mike is in the house trying to be like, stay safe. And then once again, the tall man shows up at the front door in something. And it also made me think about if this is in fact a dream, I have a lot of nightmares about being chased by things that seem to last forever. So in reflecting on how this ending might be, this whole thing might have been a dream, it does reflect that ethereal, like that experience, I keep saying the word ethereal, that experience of being chased through a whole dream. Because I mean, like, if that is what's happening, it does just feel like you're going through an extended chase sequence. And it's so scary. Like, there's never a moment where once they kind of get into it, doesn't let up. And that's terrifying in and of itself, especially again because Mike's 13, like he looks like a kid. In horror movies, it's always like, teenagers, older kids, but he's like a kid, and that's even scarier to see this main character kid be in so much danger the whole time.
Yeah, I can't imagine seeing this as a kid, honestly, particularly like you said, Ryûhei, where you're walking in and you have this poster of almost a sci-fi looking movie, and that's not what you get. Like, I can't imagine.
Like,
did that make you want to like seek out more horror films?
Yes, definitely. It freaked me out, but it fascinated me. So I just, next day I went back. I think I stayed there all day, and I went back like next day. Yeah, watched like 20 times, 30 times at the movie theater when it came out.
Whoa!
Holy cow!
That's so cool.
And those days, there's no internet, and there's no not even like VHS. There was some, but there weren't much. So I knew that once the movie theater showing is over, you never know when can you watch this movie again. So what I did was, I asked my dad to buy me this thing called micro cassette, which can record up to 120 minutes. So I recorded everything on the last day of the last show. And even after the movie is gone, I was just listening only to the sound,
Oh my gosh.
I did that to a lot of movies, like the Phantasm and like The Exterminator, Raise the Titanic, all those movies I recorded, and I was just listening. But I think that was, to be honest, kind of like a good training for me as a movie director, because I was, because there's no visual. I was just listening to the dialogue and sound effects and music, The picture I was just making up in, reconstructing in my mind. And that was a good training to be the film director.
Wow. So is that something that you started to continually do, is record the audio for movies then?
When I was a kid, yes.
When you were a kid?
Before the VHS or before the DVD, Laserdisc.
That's amazing.
Because that was the only way to revisit the movie,
I remember back in those days, like I remember having a Super Nintendo and playing the Lion King video game. And I would bring out my own cassette tape and I would record the music off of that so that I would have like the music to listen to. And so you get kind of ingenious in terms of back then when you're like, you don't really have, because like you said, there's no internet, there's no way of like accessing things. Typically, the things that you do to, get it and keep it for forever. That's wild.
Yes. Wow. So after what, like 30 years, 35 years, I became friend with great Don Coscarelli.
Did you really?
He sent me a signed remastered vinyl of Phantasm soundtrack.
Oh,
that was like another dreams come true moment. I had lunch with Don Coscarelli, and he promised me the remastered vinyl is coming out, so I'm going to send you, and he did.
He's had a fun career. I really like some of the movies that he did in the 2000s too, with like John Dies at the End. He wrote, I think he also directed that, and gosh, what Bubba Hotep. That's when I was like, what is that name? Bubba Hotep. He's had a good career of fun movies.
Great. He's great.
Yeah. That's wild. You got to meet him though. That's like a full circle moment. You see him, his movie as a kid, and now that's so cool.
Well, do we want to start wrapping up and give this our ratings out of 5?
Sounds good to me.
All right, Terry. So you are up first. How many boys out of 5? Not boys, whatever. Out of 5 do you give Phantasm?
Oh man, I always get his name. Angus Scrim.
The best actor name for a man who plays a horror villain. His name is Angus Scrim. Like, that is just almost a joke. It's incredible.
It's great. He has such a presence in this movie. And what an unlikely villain that would continue through the sequels. Like I said, this was my first time actually finally watching this movie after having years of, I don't even know why I never saw it. I remember the posters terrifying me as a kid. Maybe that just sort of lingered with me. I don't really know why I didn't watch it, but it was an absolute blast. And I cannot wait to break open my Blu-ray set and watch the other ones now, because there's so much inventiveness in this. It's goopy, it's scary, it's funny. It's really, he manages to pull off a whole lot with such a small, relatively small budget. And it's obviously a labor of love. So for me, this was like honestly, 4.5 boy out of 5 for me. I really had a blast with this. What about you, Mary Beth?
So when I first saw this, I watched it with my dad. He was making fun of it the whole time. He was like being really rude. So I didn't have the best viewing experience. And so, because I liked it, I was really into it, but I didn't remember a lot of it. And watching it now, I love how little sense it makes. I love the dream logic. I love the sound. Like, the score is just so incredible. I think everything about it just makes my skin crawl. Like, and that's a compliment. And so I actually think I might have to give this 5. I think this might be like a movie that I'm obsessed with now. I've decided that this might be one of my new favorite horror movies.
Hell yeah.
So anyway, love it. But Ryuhei, you have the final word. How many boy out of 5 do you give Phantasm?
Come on, if you're asking me, it's millions of boy for this movie. Come on.
Millions of them. So many.
That's fantastic.
But I just want to say one more thing about Angus Scrim. He is the scariest man. If I saw him on the street, I would run away. I meant to talk about him more, but he just has, like you said, a presence, and the way he walks and the way he just appears and his hair. I could never, it's such a plain seeming character at first, but I love just a creepy guy in a suit. There's something about a horror villain that's just a man in a suit that is just so incredible to me. So I just want to say another Angus Scrim shout out real quick before we finish.
He's able to like cut you down with a look. Like the way he would like side eye Mike in this movie was like, yeah, this guy scares me.
And that's pretty obvious influence on Midnight Meat Train, that Vinnie Jones character, Mahogany.
Yep, I can see that.
In suit,
with the
suit. Way he walks. Yes, that's a huge influence from the tall man.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryuhei, for joining us to talk about Phantasm. Do you have social media? Where can our listeners find you? And the floor is yours. What do you have coming up? What do you want to talk about?
No, I just keep on. Yes, please go watch The Price We Pay. This is very 80s, 90s vibe, crazy, bloody fun movie. Popcorn movie. So yeah. If you're a horror fan, splatter movie fan, I'm sure you're gonna love it. So please support the movie. And I'm already studying my next movie, which is gonna be another kind of horror thriller survival movie. It takes place on the ocean. That's all I can say. Ooh. It's gonna be very different from my other movies, but it's gonna be a new challenge. But it's gonna be great. Script is great. I'm working hard right now. So I'm pretty sure that we will be talking again probably within a year, right? So yes, I just keep on making good movie, and I even started my own brand called Cross Counter, XROSS Counter, and you can just look it up in my Instagram or something. But I actually released The Exterminator, cult classic action movie from 1980. The Exterminator soundtrack, T-shirt and hoodies, and I keep on releasing crazy movie maniac items. So please, check out.
Listeners, we're looking at the shirt right now. You're wearing it, and it's really cool. I really like it. So we'll include the links to that in the show notes too, so everyone can go check them out.
Yes, please. That'll be great. So so I'll be doing a lot of things as always. So looking forward to surprise you guys with my next movie too. So thank you so much.
You sold me with like aquatic horror. I love movies set in the ocean or around water. So that's exciting.
Yes, I'll do my best.
So listeners, you heard from us, but we want to hear from you. What was your experience with Phantasm? You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I'm at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe, and sign up for our Patreon if you want to help support us.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system. If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served. Hi, I'm Detective Dave. I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood. So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished. From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.